and welcome to the Tuesday, January 28th meeting of the Brattleboro Selectboard. Has the meeting been properly warned, Patrick?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Peter, do you have any manager's comments?
I don't tonight, thank you.
And I don't have any chair's comments. Are there members of the board that have comments or committee reports?
Yeah.
David?
The Diverse Workforce Development Committee of the Community Equity Collaborative sponsored the second annual Bridge to Brattleboro student visit today. And we had at least 6 students from Franklin Pierce College came to, they were welcomed at the hospital and given an overview of the town by our town manager, and then went on site visits with the town, with the school district, with the hospital, with HCRS, and with Building Green. And I'm not sure if there might have been some additional in the police department.
Yeah.
They had lunch at the Root Social Justice Center, which was generously provided by the Vermont Country Deli. And there they had lunch with a group of community members who talked about what it's like to live in Brattleboro, what's it like to live in Vermont as a person of color. These are students of color. And how to provide, and giving them sort of authentic insights into what the community's like. And so this is the second of these events, and there will be lots more coming. This has really taken a really solid form now. And the development committee, the Workforce Development Committee, is also now coordinating internships and looking at housing and dorm facilities or something, and stipends for students to come and participate in internships here as well. So, and Peter and the chief each had a student. So maybe you'd say a little something about it?
Yeah, so one quick clarification, it was actually yesterday, but everything else you said was right.
Yeah, it was yesterday. I've been up all night.
And there were actually about a dozen students involved. It was a really good turnout. We had some really good engagement, both in the larger group, in the session, both in the morning up at the hospital when it was the initial gathering, and then at the lunch at the Root. And in between, we had individualized experiences. The student that shadowed partially me and partially Sally Nix. We had some time separately and some time together with this person. She was just outstanding, very impressive. And from what we could see from the questions that were asked by the other students who participated, they were all came well prepared, and I think found the day worthwhile. So
give her an application.
Actually, she's from North Carolina, and she's a senior. When she graduates, she's going home.
Yeah.
But we were still glad to have the opportunity to provide her this experience, and it's something she'll take back to campus and definitely talk positively about.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay.
Mike, would you mind saying
Do you want to say something, Chief Fitzgerald, regarding your visit?
We've been a member of the Diverse Workforce Subcommittee for several years now, since its existence. And I think the greatest takeaway that we get is the opportunity to showcase the department and our community. And a second, really close second, is the doors that it opens up to these higher learning institutions for us. Like another example of that is February 13th, representatives from the PD were invited to go to Franklin Pierce to talk with their criminal justice graduates this May, and basically talk about, as a law enforcement executive, what am I looking for in candidates, interviewing techniques, and things of that nature. And of course, it's recruitment, even though it's not targeted as that, but
Sure.
Those students will talk about their experience. They were very engaging. I was extremely impressed with their philosophy on law enforcement and what they want to do after they graduate. And whether they choose Brattleboro or not, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to be very successful in whatever career, and any department would be fortunate to have them on their team. Maybe Brattleboro, may not. My two were from Boston, the Boston area, so that's a lot better than North Carolina. They're used to the snow, they're used to the cold.
Within the circle.
Right.
It's just a great opportunity to showcase Brattleboro and all the great businesses and organizations we have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have committee reports or Anything? Okay. So this is the time where we always move into public participation, which is the opportunity for members of the community to speak on something which is not on tonight's agenda. I think we're going to all just be really open with each other and know that there are people here for a specific purpose. And knowing that, I'm going to ask if the captain and the chief think it's easier to sit at the table because some of the questions are going to come your way. Does that seem fair to everybody? And that way you're not getting up and community members are getting up and down like this. Perfect. If you'd like to come to the table, because I'm thinking most of this is going to come to us and also to you. So generally during public participation, we ask for comments to be within 2 minutes and then to kind of let everybody go before you have another turn. There's different ways to do it. Some boards have chosen to just kind of say, thank you very much for your information. I think we choose to engage a little more, but we can only engage so much because it's not a warned item. So just kind of hearing that a little bit. And so with all of that said and everybody in their place, who would like to go first tonight for public participation? And what we're going to do is come to the microphone, which is not going to amplify your voice in the middle of the room, but it's going to give you, whoever's viewing this on Facebook or TV or whatever, the opportunity to hear you speak. Come on up. Somebody's got to be the icebreaker. So what you're going to do is just introduce yourself and where you're from. Some people say district, some people say Brattleboro, Dummerston, whatever.
My name is Michael Leonardo. I'm from Brattleboro, Vermont. I've lived here for just about my whole life, almost 46 years. I live on the Marlborough Avenue in Brattleboro off of Exit 1, for those who don't know. And I'm here to just let people know that the recent spike and uptick in the property thefts and break-ins to vehicles, cars, houses, sheds, whatever, what have it, and the uptick in the trespassing onto people's property. It's got us all pretty scared, and we'd like to get a public forum going. I understand there's one in the works, so we're very excited about that, and in a short time, I believe at some point at the end of next month.
Yes.
So we're waiting for the correspondence on that, and again, some of the key players that we as residents, at least in my opinion, and the families that I've spoken to on our street, that we'd like to see there are representatives from the police department, from the select board here in Brattleboro, our legislators, as many as possible, senators from Vermont, as many as possible. And I know it's going to be difficult to get all those people there at the same time, but the hope is that all the questions that the residents of the town are going to have, we have those people at the table that can answer those pretty quickly, and if not, they can go back and do their research pretty quickly and hopefully eliminate a ton of future meetings. I know nothing's going to get settled in the first meeting, but that's the goal, I think, and I think that's the goal that a lot of the residents have. I hope they do. But just to reiterate, we're scared. You know, my kids are scared. Okay. And something needs to be done. So thank you. I've met with police chief and
Oh, good.
and town manager last night. Thank you again for meeting with us on such short notice, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having those
Thanks,
private
Mike.
meetings and still coming tonight to the public meeting. And so what I'm getting is it okay if I say so what
Sure.
I'm getting
Yeah,
so
please.
far is that the forum that Michael just brought up is going to be Saturday, February 29th at 10 a.m. at the library. I asked today if there was going to be childcare, and what I heard from Star Electronica was that the upstairs child's room is reserved. I don't know if that means that somebody has been hired or is volunteering for childcare, but those of us, who are doing this should keep an eye on whether or not we need to be trying to recruit somebody to do childcare, or if that's already taken care of to make sure people have an easier time attending.
May I
Peter?
speak to that? So there'll be additional details coming out, like about the childcare and about who's going to actually be attending. It's going to involve all the types of people you described, the exact individuals. It's still very fluid in terms of coming together about who's going to be there that day and who's not going to be able to be there that day. But the Representative Emily Kornheiser was the one who started coordinating this, and there's been a tremendous amount of communication from state officials and town officials and other people into that loop, pulling these details together. But the date, time, and place are fixed. It's definitely going to be Saturday, February 29th at 10 a.m. at the library.
Must be a leap year.
Yes.
It is a leap year.
Because when I heard 29th, I was like, wait a minute.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Is there somebody else from the community who would like to come up and speak on this topic? Or any topic that's not on the agenda, but I'm assuming most of us are here for this topic. Thank you.
Adrestea, Andrews, District 1. I just was concerned about a discrepancy with trespassing and being able to get into people's cars. I just read something posted by Jeanette White and shared by a friend, and I just feel like that's contradicting. If someone's not allowed on your property, how are they then allowed in your car? Because I thought that was a little contradicting. I have people walking on my property because they exit the apartment behind me and have always done that before I moved there. I've spoken with probably every person that's crossed there, but it is concerning when you have children and dogs that bark at them and you feel unsafe because of other things that are going around in the neighborhood. So I'm just trying to clear that up. Thank you, and thanks for your protection.
Whoever wants to take that, feel free to run with it.
I am not familiar with what Senator White said, so I can't comment.
It seemed to.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Pardon me. It seemed to have been spoken about in the article as a police officer saying that you are allowed to get in someone else's vehicle. And I just was concerned about that because Jeanette had made a statement that she had gotten into someone else's vehicle, having worked where she worked or whatever, having a Volvo, and that was kind of this phrase of it. And the police officer, whom was not represented by name in the article that I noticed, which I was concerned with, had mentioned that indeed was okay to get into people's car. And then there's the trespassing contradiction. So are people allowed to get into people's cars?
Perfect.
Yes,
Yep.
that's where I was going to go.
Thank you.
If the question was, can an individual go in your car and have that be an arrestable offense? Can an individual go in your car and have and not be arrested? Pretty much.
Is there any kind of, what happens?
There is no law stating that an individual cannot go in your car. If an individual goes in your car and does not cause damage or does not take anything, we cannot arrest them.
But isn't that trespassing?
No.
How is that not trespassing? That's where I'm-
Andrea, can you come to the mic? It's only because I want, this
Pardon
is so
me.
important.
Pardon me, I am just trying to be clear that how would someone get into your car without having trespassed?
Because there's no law against it.
To get on-
Trespass is
trespassing.
specific to your property. Property is your yard, your house.
Yes,
Your-
but the car is in that area.
It doesn't
do you-
fall under it, no.
But do you see how there's a contradiction?
I do. I
So
do.
what
And-
do you
and
have to say about the contradiction regardless of that? Do you have any thoughts about it?
I most certainly do, and that's a question I think that we will hopefully get satisfactory answers when we have the whole group together with law enforcement, town government, state government, hopefully the state's attorneys, because there is some confusion around that.
May I add, please, because I know this from conversations with the chief, and I think it's important for the public to understand. There are states where that is illegal, where getting into somebody's car is illegal.
Massachusetts, I think.
But it's not illegal in Vermont if the person doesn't damage your property or steal something from your property.
I can add, sorry.
That's all right, you can go in the queue and Captain can still add.
More specifics. I was just going to give my understanding of what is and isn't considered criminal trespassing.
I was going to do the exact same thing.
Could you identify yourself for the?
Sure. My name's George Anthes. I'm from Brattleboro. It's been a little while since I've looked at this issue, but essentially, when out in the country in Vermont, if you're posted trespassing or you've told a specific person not to trespass, then trespassing is arrestable. If you're in town, then going within your fence, if you've got a gate that's closed,
Okay.
is criminal trespassing. Of course, most of us don't have our cars within our fences, and so that's why, as Chief Fitzgerald says, unless there is damage or taking something, it's not criminal trespassing for them to get into your car. And then, of course, getting into your house is a separate issue, which is dealt with in separate laws. But within Brattleboro, inside your fence that's gated is trespassing, even if nothing is stolen or damaged. Otherwise, not criminal trespassing. You can correct me.
Very well said.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. So the law in Vermont, simply walking on someone else's property, even if you know it's someone else's property, if it's not posted no trespassing, or you haven't been given notice by the person that you're not allowed to be there, it's not a crime. Now, entering into someone's home, regardless of whether you've been told not to or not, is a crime. If you look at the statute, and again, this will be explored, I'm sure, much more deeply at this forum, explaining trespass, but simply walking on someone else's property, if it's not posted, you haven't been told you can't, there isn't some other affirmative action like a fence having been built there, then it's not trespassing. So we wouldn't be able to charge the person with trespassing for walking in, for example, walking into your driveway, entering your car, if nothing was stolen and nothing was damaged.
Pardon me once again. I vote for hemp-made no trespassing signs that we can gift to all of our neighbors, because when I hung my no trespassing sign up, it got torn down, and it is my responsibility as a tenant to provide that. So that would be gifted by the fairies, please, of the police department. Thank you.
I have to say, those laws are, it must be really hard to be trying to enforce a law that feels really vague, and this is only my opinion, a little privilegey, because not everybody's just randomly fencing in their cars on private properties. And it should be an exciting discussion on the 29th. David?
Yeah, I don't think that's the reason, though, that most of these people are here. I don't think the problem is that, somebody getting in another person's car and sitting in the car. It's taking things, it's destroying things. I saw a picture of a broken window and apparently $4,000 worth of damage. So I think that's the real issue. And Vermont has some weird laws, and they never thought to make a law against that, but that might change. But that's not going to change the problem.
Brandon,
Elizabeth?
I wondered if the chief could just give us an overview of the problem for people watching on TV who may not be that aware of it.
Sure.
We've had a significant spike in reports of attempted larcenies or larcenies within vehicles within the town in the last 3 months. The same time period last year, we had 12 reports of similar like incidents, and that same time period this year was 39 reports. And it seems to be in certain areas of town, more than others. So we are reaching out with neighbors. We are talking with the neighbors on this issue. We have changed some of our tactics. I really don't want to get into the deep part of our tactics.
No, please
But
don't.
we have changed some of our tactics through the overnight hours relating to this in these different neighborhoods. It has produced some results, obviously not the results that we're looking for. But what I would mainly like to say to the general public is, and I say it all the time, and I sound like a broken record, please call the police. I mean, even though they went into your car, didn't break anything, didn't steal anything, even though we cannot arrest them, we don't know their history or their story. They could be out violating conditions where they have a curfew. They could be violating court order conditions for contact or in certain areas. Alcohol, they could be under the influence when they do it, violating a condition. They could have an arrest warrant for them. And that, through our tactics, has produced results where we have confronted these individuals and found out they were in violation of court-ordered conditions, and they did have arrest warrants, and they were arrested for other things than going into the car. So it helps us that way. It also helps us when we gather our data. Everything that we do is data-driven. So if we get complaints of certain neighborhoods that are getting hit disproportionately to the town as a whole, well, then we know where to concentrate our focus of main effort. So it helps us in our tactical planning also. Nothing's too small. I know that number, well, I should say my opinion is that number is very small. I bet you there are other residents that have gone out there and said someone has rummaged through my car and nothing was taken. Why am I going to bother calling the police? Or it was this amount of change, or it was really nothing of value. And they rightfully just get frustrated and upset and go about their day. However, us knowing that data, that those individuals were operating in that neighborhood, helps us greatly in how we're going to address this issue.
Thank you. Tim, would like you want to say something?
I have a question for the chief. I had a quick question, if you don't mind. Chief, definitely an uptick in the vehicle-related intrusions, let's call them, for lack of a better term, when it's a legal question. But have you seen any uptick in any kind of residence intrusions or attempt at intrusions? Because there was a rumor flying around that not only was it cars, but that the 225%, or what was reported, was also residences and houses. So I just wanted to get that out there, that
No,
are you seeing the same thing?
I have not, and
Okay.
none has been brought to my attention. The uptick in the percentage that I sent out was strictly with attempts and larcenies for vehicles, nothing to do with residents or other dwellings.
Thank you.
Thank you, pardon me. I was hoping you could also just touch on, for people at home as well as here, that if you do post something on Facebook as such as thing, the article you might have seen the picture of, we're seeing, you could be held liable for doing that to your own car. I really realized that, and just wanted you to touch on that for everyone so we can have that knowledge as well. Thank you.
I didn't understand that.
Andrew
Held liable for posting that picture of the $4,000 in damages, as what I read in the article earlier, and so people cannot go about posting things, even though they're trying to protect themselves and warn others. It was looked at as that could have been, they could have been held liable.
I know what you're talking about. I think what that is you can't be like, Brandy, I know that Brandy Starr broke my window and caused $4,000 worth of damage. I agree with you that that's not how it was stated, but I'm while
Touch on that then?
Yeah.
Are you held liable then if you're posting it as?
It is exactly how the chair addressed it. My statements to that was, when they posted two pictures of individuals,
yeah.
and I can state emphatically, one of those individuals in no way, shape, he's incarcerated.
Yeah.
He is incarcerated. And they posted it on Facebook for the world to see that this individual broke into my car. Now, okay, I don't know the status of the other one, but I'm sure you would be upset if your picture was pasted on Facebook saying that you're accused of criminal activity. And that's what I said was irresponsible.
Yeah, I think those pictures got taken down too, so it makes the context kind of wonky between the article and what had been posted quickly, which was photos of humans. But I think they were taken down, so it makes it weird. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anybody here tonight who hasn't spoken yet that really feels like they want to weigh in on this issue? We're still in public participation. We're still talking about the break-ins in vehicles, although I do want to preface that public participation is technically an opportunity to talk about anything that's not on the agenda. But this is, the main topic of the night, and so if there's anybody here who still wants to speak, you're welcome to.
Actually, I do have one more idea of question. What can we do to prevent the 5G from coming into our town as quickly as it might happen? Do you have any thoughts about that, and how we can protect our schools?
I don't.
I don't know that we've brought in anybody for tonight that would be able to answer that one. I think tonight, any night we can bring up anything, but tonight it seemed like we were going to get a lot of conversation about this, and so we had the chief and captain come with us for that. There is a group in town that's working on what you're talking about, and I'd recommend reaching out with them. I can talk to you about offline who to reach out to for that. Are there any members, only because I don't know if they want to be named in public, are there any members of the select board who would like to speak on this topic, or?
No, I think I just want to throw out there that a few people did decide they were it looked like people were coalescing around February 4th to come by as well.
That's true,
Some people
yes.
couldn't make it tonight. So would you guys mind, or one of you mind, being available for our next meeting?
We kind of threw out the 2 dates that were coming up. So every single meeting is an opportunity for public participation. But so tonight we asked the chief and the captain to be here, and then we're asking is if next week one or the other or both could be here as well for anybody who couldn't make it tonight. That works out okay? So anybody who couldn't make it tonight, come here for 6:15. Second floor, municipal building. If you need an accessible entrance, come to the back parking lot. There's an elevator, and this same conversation that's taking place right now can take place in France.
Will that be on the agenda for that meeting?
You know, it's
Something I threw out there.
It should be on the agenda.
it's really, we'll see. The only challenge with that is if it's on the agenda, then it comes all the way at the end of the meeting as new business, I think. Is that a correct statement, Peter?
It would be new business.
Whereas if it's public participation, people can come right in and then get back to putting their kids to bed or whatever they're doing in the evening.
Anyway, just one thing, I don't know if the chief said it really explicitly or not, but you're doing exactly the right thing in terms of contacting the police, and for people, anybody has an experience like this, the first thing to do is contact the police so they can try to do something about it. The other thing is that's an immediate response. The long-term response is legislative, and you're in touch with the legislature and we're going to be talking to them, so you're doing the right things.
Yes, thank you for that. And a lot of us have gone through all the steps also of trying to make our property a little more secure by way of brighter light bulbs in our hardwired lights outside, motion detection lights, video camera systems with night vision. We also have installed, many of us have also installed motion sensors. I mean, how much further do we need to go?
Right.
We've done all that. We've been dealing with it for a little over 2 years in our area,
Really?
and the
our
cost
labs,
is
sure.
getting expensive. It's almost, on my part, it's almost $800 in the last 2 years
Yeah,
to upgrade all that stuff. So it's just, I think it's going to be a good thing. The public forum, I think, I hope is going to be huge, where most of the people come out, speak your piece, tell everybody truly how you feel, what you'd like to see done, and it's not gonna be an easy process. We understand that. It's gonna take time, especially if legislature has to either change laws, rewrite laws, amend something, try and make things work a little better than what's happening now. We understand that, but we can't wait any longer. It's time for people to come out, speak your piece civilly, and hope for the best in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Is there anybody else who wants to speak tonight? Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to move into the main business of the meeting. Remember that, thank you so much for joining us, Captain
welcome.
Kerrigan, Chief Fitzgerald, I really appreciate it, and for joining us again next week to give the public this early in the meeting opportunity. And then once again, we will have the formalized forum, community forum, which will be February 29th at 10 a.m. at the library. The child reading room is reserved. I'm not sure how childcare goes. That will be trickled out. But that'll be a third and most formal opportunity to speak. Is there anybody here who wants to speak on anything in public participation that did not just come up? Okay, so I'm going to move us into our unfinished business of the meeting. And our first item is to approve the Select Board's recommended FY fiscal year 21 budget. Peter, can you lead us into that after?
Sure.
That?
So we provided to you staff's proposed budget for FY21 back on November 5th. The board has held 9 meetings where it's received public input and had discussions about various aspects of the budget. For most of this month of January, we've been working through unfinished items, things that you had identified during the first run through as matters you wanted to give additional consideration to or needed additional information about. And as we progressed closer and closer to this date, you've narrowed that down to where last week you made what we believe is going to be your final decision in terms of modifying the budget. It's hard to summarize 20 pages of line items into a sentence or two of summary. I'm happy to take a deeper dive that would take actually a little while to summarize it, going through the 2-page summary and kind of the manner that we do on the first night. But I think, frankly, that given the amount of time you have given to this in public and with the engagement of the public, it's probably most relevant to most people in the community how the proposed budget would impact property taxes. That usually is where the rubber meets the road for us. And so I will summarize that, and then if there's anything else you want me to highlight, I'll be happy to go back and do that. The impact of the budget that you arrived at the end of last meeting would be an increase of property taxes of 2.9% or 3.77 cents in the municipal property tax rate, which means that for every $100,000 of value in a property, municipal property taxes for the year will increase by $37.70. Your approval tonight is not the final word. If you do approve this budget, or either in its form as it's presented to you or in a modified form, it then goes into the town report and is considered by representative town meeting, and it's the vote on March 21st at representative town meeting that actually is the final word on the budget.
Great, thank you for that lead-in and summary, Peter. Members of the board, final comments, questions? Daniel, I will seriously. But honestly, are there anything that's come up in the last week? Anything you've been thinking about that's been nagging on your brain that you want to say before this goes to representative town meeting, before it goes out to all of our reps?
I'm excited for the public to weigh in on this budget and decide en masse what they want to do.
Great, thank you.
I think it's a budget that reflects not only, the care which the staff and the select board took, but also the will of the public, and we'll see that at town meeting.
Town meeting never fails to really take a look at the work that we do, and so I think if there's anything I've learned from serving on this board, it's to really put your all into it. But when you start to get anxious and feel like you're spinning your wheels, step back a little bit and remember that there's going to be 140 something other eyes on this same document that are going to kind of help you bring this whole thing to fruition.
Yeah, I'll just say, it's been a long process, and this budget touches on everything, including things like our recent negotiation with our police union, which has provided even better benefits and compensation for a very hardworking force that is now being asked to step up and help us with this new issue that we're encountering in town. So it's all connected, as we like to say.
And we're here. David?
Well, I guess if we're taking turns saying things,
Yeah,
I'll point
Might as well. We're going right down the table, and there you
I
are.
thought we were going to be really quiet and just say, okay, let's be done with this. But
Yeah.
also, it's worth pointing out that we also made changes to get our non-unionized employees a little bit closer to a living wage, and I think that's important as well.
Good.
Yep.
Are there members of the community or members of the Franz that would like to say anything on this before we formalize about Franz, come up. Franz, there's a reason I'm calling Franz out for anybody that's not watching. Franz will cite that meening when he comes right up to the microphone. I think.
And here I am, Franz Reichsman from the Finance Committee. I just, purely for my own convenience, I guess, I'm sure this is available, but could you give the numbers for the, you said the 3.77 cents, but what's the current number, and then what would be the number for next year? Do you have that? For tax
All
rates?
the way at the back.
And it'll take me just a second to locate it.
Have our budget books.
Last page, I think.
Thanks, Franz.
Yeah, historic.
I thought it would be at your fingertips.
It usually is, actually. It's the last
Don't
page,
make me make a joke. Don't make
So
me make a joke.
the general fund operating budget for the current fiscal year, the tax rate is $1, 25 cents and 0.85, so 1.2585 cents. With the 3.77 added to that, it would be 1. Let me write it down.
I'm not doing math. I'm
1.285, and then
163.
No.
128,
No,
128.
that's why we got to be careful with the decimals.
Yeah.
1.2962. 1.2962 is what it would increase.
Yeah, that's what I get too. Thank you. Thank you.
You could have just told us.
Yeah, and I don't know if you also have that list of tax rates for back to 2005,
Yes.
whatever it is. There's a very small adjustment number in there that I didn't understand. It's like 9/10 thousandths of a dollar or something that's like in the middle column there.
Yep.
And I just, could you clarify what that's about?
Sure. That's the local agreement tax rate. It's an adjustment that has to do with equalizing tax rates across Vermont. I can't tell you the exact formula that's applied, but because each town does its own property valuation, there's a adjustment that is made to
It's an equalization
even up
ratio.
right, for the taxes that are paid into the state, property taxes paid to the state related to the education tax system. It has nothing to do with.
So it has nothing
town-
to do with the municipal budget?
Nothing to do with the municipal budget, nothing that the select board or town meeting has any control over. It's imposed by the state as an equalizing factor for.
Sounds like the common level of appraisal.
Exactly.
It's related to the fact that different towns have different common levels of.
Got it. I'm familiar with it in the school budget setting. I wasn't
Okay.
sure what that was in there.
And that's why it's there, because the table shows not only the municipal tax rate, but the school-related
Got
tax
it.
rates as well, and that's why you see the local agreement
Very good.
column.
Thank you.
Thanks, Franz. Further comments, questions, memorializations, feelings? 'Cause we're about to vote on this, and I feel like we've been doing this since October, so it feels big. Maybe it's
We have.
Yeah.
okay. Well, then I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the FY21 proposed budget as presented and add it to the warning for representative town meeting.
Okay, David has made that motion to approve the budget. Let's not lose sight of the fact that it then goes to representative town meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Nice job, teammates. Don't even know where to go from there.
What are you going to do
Parent.
next Tuesday?
Jesus. Apparently, we go from there to approving the town meeting warnings. And that is for the votes that will be taken on March 3rd, which are Australian ballot over at the American Legion from 7 to 7. And also the warnings that go to representative town meeting, which is a meeting attended by anybody, but actively attended by reps from each district on Saturday, March 21st. Peter?
Thank you. There is one change to the first of those two warnings from what you saw last week.
Okay.
There was a placeholder, there was Article 2 last week for the school officers that will be listed on the ballot. Because of the, one of the implications of Act 46 and the consolidation of school districts is that there's no local town of Brattleboro school district any longer. Because of the way in which the new consolidated school district needs to advertise its portion of the ballot, or warn its portion of the ballot, this year we're having separate warnings for the ballot portion and for representative town meeting. There will be no school portion for representative town meeting, and the school portion of the March 3rd town meeting day ballot is being warned separately by the school. So, schools, I should say, school district. So what you saw for the first part of this last week had 3 articles on it. You now only have 2 articles on it. They are the 2 that relate to town government. Article 1 being the offices that will be, for which elections will be held on that ballot, and Article 2 being the question about form of governance.
Thank you for that, Peter. And so it's going to be really important for us as voters to wrap our minds around the fact of how votes concerning the school board and the school budget and all of that is really going to be just kind of yanked out of our hands. It's not going to happen this March, whether you're voting on the 3rd or sitting in representative town meeting on that.
Actually, no, it will happen on the 3rd.
Oh, good, okay.
It's going to be on the ballot the same way as you're used to seeing it, but warned separately by the school district and in accordance with the new rules that apply to the new school district.
And so people will need to keep their eyes open for school district representatives to be posting that out. We're not going to be, we'll post it out if we know it, but you should really take a look at your school representatives for the district.
A couple clarifications. Yeah. One is that Brattleboro voters will be voting on school board members in all of the districts, and the districts, all the other towns, I should say, and the surrounding towns will be voting for the Brattleboro candidates as well. And there will be a candidates forum, and there will be profiles of the candidates published or posted on websites, and hopefully in the media as well. So you'll be able to find out about people that you probably never heard of before.
Great.
But it'll be on the ballot when you go to town to vote on town meeting day, or if you go in ahead of time, which for the school district starts on February 12th, the early voting. The ballot will look exactly the same. You'll vote for school directors. It'll just be for a Wyndham Southeast District instead of Brattleboro Town District.
Thank you, David. Peter?
Yes, just one other thing to make clear for the record. Everything that we've been talking about here in these last few minutes related to the warnings has been related to what is new and different this year in the March 3rd town meeting day election. The representative town meeting warning that is also part of your backup tonight is identical to what you saw a week ago and has 20 articles of town business on it without any school business on it because of, again, of the consolidation of the local town school districts into the Wyndham Southeast School District.
Excellent.
They're ready for your approval. We recommend your approval unless you have any further questions.
Board members, questions, comments, musings? On
Shall
March-
I now read the whole thing?
Which whole thing? The March 3rd whole thing, or
You can just read Article 15 or Article 19. Very good, yes. Let's
Okay, then I would enter.
it
Yeah,
rolling.
Tim, go ahead.
I'm just wondering when we can stop calling it Australian ballot.
Oh, it's a terrible term.
You're from Australia. Do
Yes,
you have
I'm from
something to do
Australia.
with this?
No, I'm not.
You're from Australia this
No.
whole time? I had
That's
no
a running
idea.
gag.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
stupid name.
teasing.
It's a callback.
It's really perplexing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do kind
Secret
of know the
ballot.
history. It's in my
You know.
brain, but
I don't want to have to call it that. I just think that's what people know it as.
Oh,
So
should
I'm
they, though?
open to a better term.
Actually,
Yes, that's
I'm
what
not
I
sure
grew up
people
in
even
voting
know what
as.
that means.
Okay.
it's just
Yeah.
we know that's what we call
Secret
it.
vote.
It would be way better if you said.
Secret vote. It's the difference is on March 3rd you can vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. but there's no robust conversation. Things that are handled on March 21st, there will be
Robust
copious conversation
from at least two of these
Correct.
people.
on those articles.
And you can actually vote early as well in the
Yes.
secret ballot, Australian ballot.
Yes.
February
Maybe
12th
private
onwards.
ballot
There's a
would be better.
this. Everyone should know this.
not as
actually,
fun, though.
you can actually vote almost now for the state and
For
federal
the national.
and the national
But not
Yeah,
for-
45
and the
days.
primaries.
Yeah.
But you don't want to
No.
It's like hurting
because you'd have to go back
Yes.
on February 12th in that case.
Yeah.
and then
And
your
vote
school
again
stuff.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is foolish anyway because the national stuff is going to sort itself out a little bit more.
Yeah.
on
And
March.
maybe it's good to vote early if you need to, and also sometimes you need time to digest all of the various offices, especially I guess if you were thinking about like Article number 2, about form of government, and also like I guess if we're voting on school district folks that we don't know so
Right.
well,
Take our
we want to
time.
like figure out what these people are like, and maybe things will need more time than just February 12th. I don't know.
So vote thoughtfully
Whatever.
and
you know,
also only
do whatever
vote
you want
once.
to do. It's your vote. You know.
It used to be early and often. Now it's thoughtfully and once.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I would love
Having
to
had
approve.
this conversation, is there anybody who would like to make a motion before we go really deep into the
I'll
weeds?
make a motion.
All right.
I move to approve, as presented, the warning for the annual town meeting to be held on March 3rd, 2020, and the warning for the annual representative town meeting to be held on March 21st, 2020.
Excellent. Excellent. I mean, Daniel has made that very heavy motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we now move into new business, and our first item is appointment for ratification at town meeting, and it is for our interim town treasurer. Peter?
Thank you. So a week ago, you did your normal annual actions on this same type of an appointment for the positions of town clerk and town attorney. We held this one back because that night we had in front of you the contract to have the accounting and auditing firm of Lance and Heath be providing interim finance director services to the town for the next few months while we search for a new finance director. Now that that's a settled matter, we have in front of you the town treasurer, which normally, when there isn't turnover occurring in the position of finance director, in our system here, because we have a staff that's sufficient for it to function this way, as is normal for a larger town in Vermont. Many of the smaller towns in Vermont actually have town treasurers who are elected. They don't have a finance department staff like we have. We've got a finance department staff that allows for separation of duties and proper internal controls. And the finance director, because of that, serves in Brattleboro as the finance director and treasurer, subject to appointment as treasurer each year by the select board and ratification by town meeting. Since we are in transition this year, what we're asking is that you appoint as interim town treasurer, the town's assistant treasurer, who is Deborah DeRozier. She, over the years, when John O'Connor has been the town treasurer, it's Debbie who has signed on his behalf at times when he was not immediately available for something that needed the town treasurer's signature. She's the right person for this responsibility, and the structure with which we brought this forward is to have her designated as interim town treasurer, effective immediately and continuing until a new finance director town treasurer is hired. We'd ask that you approve this tonight, and then we'll be asking town meeting to approve it on March 25th.
Thank you, Peter. How does Debbie feel about this?
She is willing.
Hey, I'll take it.
Maybe even enthusiastic, but she'd have to speak for herself about that.
But she's willing to
obviously,
do it.
we've cleared this with her. She understands
Great.
that this action would be happening this evening.
Excellent. Board members, questions, comments, feelings?
Since we technically have to appoint a town treasurer when there is a new hire,
Yes.
does that then require an assembly of town meeting?
It does
approve?
not.
Okay.
What happens when either town clerk or finance director is appointed in the middle of a year in between town meetings, you will make the select board appointment to, in this case, town treasurer, subject to ratification at the next town meeting, but they'll serve based on your action as town treasurer in the meantime.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that question.
Good clarification.
Other comments, questions?
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, take it away.
I move to appoint Deborah DeRozier as interim town treasurer, subject to ratification at the representative town meeting on March 21st, 2020.
Excellent. Liz has made that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
I would just like to mention that there are 3 clerk-related items that I'm sending down the line.
All right.
Okay. That was not a vague statement there,
Very
Liz.
clerky.
We're on it immediately. Okay. We are still under new business. We're on our last item under new business, and we are on sidewalk project to connect the new Hinsdale Bridge to Royal Road. Peter?
Thank you. This is one of the things that has flowed out of the significant amount of communication and collaboration we've been having with officials at VTrans over the last year or so around a number of different transportation-related matters in Brattleboro. So there's also safety actions that the state is working towards on Putney Road as a result of that work that we've been doing together. They are also considering a request for speed limit reduction on Putney Road as well as out on Marlborough Road. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are indicative of VTrans honoring its commitment that it has made to municipalities around Vermont to be a partner in addressing things that are of local concern within the transportation system. This one here is related to the Hinsdale Bridge project that is to be put out to bid this year. The awarding of the bid is either going to be late this year or early next year if everything stays on schedule. Construction to begin about a year from now or a little bit later. In the final planning stages, VTrans identified an opportunity to connect the sidewalk that is already going to connect the bridge to downtown. There's an opportunity to have that sidewalk extended so that it goes from the bridge to Royal Road, which is the entrance into the Morningside Commons neighborhood, and a crosswalk with the traffic signal at that location modified to have a dedicated walk signal like we have in downtown Brattleboro. The initially, because this was to be related to but separate from the bridge project, it had a price tag attached to it that we believed to be prohibitively high. The town would have had a cost share that we thought was difficult for the town to bear for such a small segment of sidewalk, but it was a really good project. It's something we wanted to see achieved. And so we worked with VTrans around that concern, and they've identified ways in which sort of up to the point where you would go outside of what's allowed by the Federal Highway Administration. So they don't go outside of that, obviously. They're living within the federal rules that apply to the bridge project. But within the boundaries of what they can accommodate that prepares for this project within the scope of the bridge project, that's now been incorporated into the bridge project, which allows the separate piece of work to build the sidewalk to be the lowest expense possible. VTrans, because it's responsible for the signal at the intersection, will pay 100% of the cost of modifying that signal to provide the walk signal and the crosswalk there. We will share 80%, 20% the costs of the construction of the new sidewalk, with the state paying 80% and the town paying 20%. The town's share of the sidewalk portion of the project is estimated to be about $70,000. We don't know for sure exactly what it will be yet, because the action we're asking for tonight is for you to authorize us to move forward. There's a form that has to be submitted to VTrans. It's called their project commitment form, and it states that the town is committed to moving forward with this project and that we will appropriate the monies that we need to appropriate at the time that the project moves forward to pay for our share of it. We will actually be managing the project on behalf of VTrans, so it'll be one of these projects where we manage the project forward and then are reimbursed for 80% of the cost by the state. We're very pleased from staff's perspective that it's been able to be worked out this way. We're grateful again that the VTrans staff, there have been times over the years when it's easy to complain about folks who work 2 hours away, and sometimes there's been less collaborative of a relationship, but we've really had good communication over this last year or two, and this project is Exhibit A for that. We think it's ready for your approval. We'd like to advise VTrans that we're ready to move forward with it so they can start taking the steps they need to put together a grant agreement and get the project moving forward.
Thank you for that, Peter. I'm also really grateful for the way that VTrans has really held in, especially in a project that has kind of developed a drag. It could be easy to lose sight of. So, is there anybody who'd like to speak to this item on the board?
Sounds like progress and really good negotiating relationship with VTrans.
Great. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, there's a
Excellent.
question.
Where? Franz.
there.
How did I not know? Come forth, Franz.
Could still make a motion.
Franz Reichsman, Finance Committee. This is only marginally related, but I'm wondering whether this project involves any change to either the structure of the intersection of Main Street and Route 142 or the traffic control there.
That's a great question.
Discussion sparked that in my mind.
No, thank you.
not
Actually,
marginal.
that's come up a lot in discussions with various members of the public around what's coming with this project. So that intersection is not within the scope of the project. It won't be touched by the project. There is one significant change to Route 142 that I'll mention in a minute that people probably ought to, since we're taking a little bit deeper dive, people ought to be warned about. So I'll come back to that in a second. But directly to your question about the five-way intersection at Lower Main Street that's very challenging at times, that's going to become essentially a four-way. The route that now goes to Hinsdale is going to be a connection only down to the restaurant and the train station parking. And so there's going to be a lot less traffic using Bridge Street. It will still be there, but it'll be, the signalization will be reset in a way that makes the other 4 entry points function, even though the geometry is, there's no right angle in sight. It's still, at least from a signal timing point of view, is going to be able to function like a 4-way intersection. And so we expect that the free-flowing traffic through that area is going to improve significantly. We'll see. That's another thing that has come out of coordination with the state, because since it was originally outside of, and still is actually outside of the scope of the bridge project, originally there wasn't really any plan to do any modification there. In communication that we've had with VTrans, they completely agree that to finish off the bridge project and not adjust the timing there is going to leave that even further out of whack, because nobody needs the help to come up that hill by the, from the railroad tracks anymore, or very few people compared to the current load. And so the VTrans is going to take on the responsibility of doing that reset once the bridge project is complete.
It's not a structural change, it's just a reset of the timing?
Exactly right. Yep. The geometry of the intersection will remain exactly as it is today.
Which I think will make quite a difference. I mean,
Absolutely.
It should.
yeah.
Yeah.
It should. We don't know. It's all theory.
Right.
Yeah, but it should.
And then the other thing I was going to mention is, so the connecting point between the bridge and Route 142 is at an elevation quite a lot higher than the current elevation of Route 142. So that's necessary because of the height that the bridge has to be at when it comes over the railroad tracks. And the railroad tracks are so close to where 142 is at that point that there's not enough room to bring the Route 119 coming off of the bridge, down to the current level of 142. So what's going to happen is somewhere around the current entrance to the what was the Marlboro Graduate Center building, the 142 is going to rise pretty significantly. I don't remember the exact amount of feet. I want to say maybe 20 or 22 feet high, and it will peak at the point where the connection to Route 119 and the bridge to Hinsdale will be, and then it'll come back down, and it'll be back down at the current grade by the time it gets to the Royal Road intersection. But it'll be a really significant change in the appearance of that area.
It's weird.
Slope of
I
the roadway.
sense fun for bicyclists.
And skateboards. So I was just thinking, do we need a skateboard?
It's going to be the perfect skateboard area. Yep. Okay. Ron, do you feel good? Pretty feels good about that? Excellent. Do we need a motion for that, Peter? I don't have my page
do,
flipped.
please.
Okay, I would entertain one.
I'll make a motion to authorize Town Manager Elwell to sign and submit a project commitments form to the Vermont Agency of Transportation for a sidewalk project to connect the new Hinsdale Bridge with Royal Road.
Excellent. Peter, Jesus. I'm sorry.
We are now committed.
Tim has made that motion. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. There is no other warned business on tonight's agenda, and so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:15. Anastasia, can you come up here for a second, please?
Where are you going to dinner?
I have now given Peter 2 incorrect spellings of your name, and I would love it.